Live stream good to go. Okay, welcome back everyone. Thanks for the shortened afternoon tea break. The final item on our agenda is the 6 monthly reports from the 3 CCOs we deal with. This is a Yolanda matter, so welcome Yolanda.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, committee members. So this is an annual report that we bring to this committee with our CCOs then presenting their half-yearly results as well as their statement of intent for the next financial year. So after we've heard from each of the CCOs, we'll then work through the response letters from our council to them as part of the normal process. So that we'll do towards the end. So first, if I can hand over to the Hamilton Airport, then they can kick off.
Welcome, Mark and Scott. So just to be clear, Yolanda, we're going to hear from these people, ask any questions, but we'll deal with the feedback letter afterwards. Yeah, thank you. Welcome, gentlemen. Floor's yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Council. So, as per usual, we will give you an update on the business and particularly spend a bit of time with you today just on Jetstar and the preparations for those services which you might be interested in. Just wanted to do a time check, Chair. How long have we got?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Okay, all right, we'll be
roughly 10 for talking, a few minutes for questions. We got it.
Okay. Of course, technology works. Should it just be the arrows?
I might need to get it on.
Yes, it was sent to you by Lauren some time ago.
Yeah, it went to Mon. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Bear with us. Have we got this in diligent, people? We haven't got slides though. We've got a full report.
I've now got 8 minutes.
No,
30.
we won't start the clock till your presentation's up.
We'll have to be super quick, actually.
Oh,
I've got a hard copy. Jetstar's looking very good.
Is it an aeroplane? Is it an electric aeroplane?
Yes.
Would you have it?
yeah, I'll just,
Yeah.
Should we swap? Chair, do you want to
Well,
swap with Kelvin?
that's the other option,
You
yeah.
want to swap with Kelvin and we get the presentation
Yeah, so
sorted
I'll
and come
just
back
forward
in?
it,
Does that work for
I
you?
think we've
or
got
not?
it here. So, yeah, so
From
governance team,
Give it a minute, Mark. We'll give
governance team
Yep.
at Waipara DC. Oh, sorry, governance support, is that, is there no dot in it? No.
You've still got 10 minutes, Mark.
Sometimes they get disrupted a little.
Increasingly.
Right, okay. Yeah. No, you'll be ready for takeoff anytime soon. Yeah, that's right.
All right, speed read.
No,
Okay.
you've got
Plenty
10
of time. Go for
Look,
it.
there's a couple of, the key point on this slide, our introductory slide really is that the group it's really quite a pivotal time. I think we are moving from a period where we've talked a lot about our aeronautical strategy and our property strategy into a period where a lot is happening. So we've got not only the introduction of Jetstar in terms of the aviation strategy, but we've also got quite a bit happening with aeromedical facilities. So we're redoing a hangar to accommodate that new initiative. A lot of activity around private jets, et cetera, et cetera. So and that's in that space. And in the property space, we now have Precinct North development. We've started earthworks last week. So it's opening up the first 10 to 20 hectares of land. And our first design build starts in May. So I guess a lot happening in that space. Therefore, we are now working on our a review of our 10-year strategy for both property and aeronautical, which we will complete over the next 6 months and present to the shareholders via the AGM in November. The other point I'd really make up here is, and I know you've already had Nicola in today, but sort of as the shareholder of Hamilton Waikato Tourism, I think the only point I would add is that with Jetstar and the importance of promoting tourism into the region, the RTO is critical. And of course, it's got a funding challenge. We have allowed additional funding into the RTO to help with the launch of Jetstar over the next 12 months. But it is going to be a challenge longer term. But I'm sure Nicola would have made that point.
Right, good afternoon, everyone. So as you'll see, a bit of a health check on our statement of intent there, lots of green ticks, which is generally great news. The one I just refer to, profitability, that's a bit of a yellow. We'll give ourselves a half a mark for that. We're actually, our underlying trading business is going really well, all things considered. But with the arrival of international services, there's obviously a lot of work to do to get ready. So we've had to front load some operating costs, consultancy support, costs around border agencies and things. So those are all unbudgeted costs. So yeah, they will be reflected in our earnings this year, and we should hopefully meet budget, but just signalling we'll be close, if not there. Just some other sort of key headlines. Where we put a solar farm in about 12 months ago. First year, that first full 12 months results, slightly ahead of where we thought we'd be, which is great. About 40% reduction in electricity we've purchased. And the balance of the electricity we purchased is now all renewable as well via Mercury, of course, generate entirely locally as well. And just around the aeronautical business and international work streams, when we set the statement of intent, nearly 12 months ago, we were thinking we were going to progress the border agency conversation for the day international happened. So we didn't expect in this 12-month period before the 30 June this year that we would actually have an international plane taking off or landing on our runway. So we've come a long way in a short space of time in that sense. Just through the next slide. Just a wee roadmap here of our sort of headline financial numbers for the next couple of years. You'll see a half-year result in the report that you would have received around 4 million and a full-year result of 6, based on a reasonably large land sale that's taken place. The next couple of years, we're moving away from land sale activity. As you'll be aware, we've been talking about this transition to being a property developer and selling land to a long-term investor, and we're finally at that juncture. So that will explain the significant uptake in debt. You'll see debt up to 70 million, potentially higher, depending on other deals we can secure. But the airport will have a couple of long-term tenants on 20-year leases, bringing in about 4 million in rental incomes there. And that's obviously an annual amount compared to a similar amount in actually what we're getting in land sales. So that's great news. And additionally, obviously some increased passenger activity brings car parking and retail and landing charges to the airport as well. So that's already positive, but just drawing your attention to that large increase in debt that the business will continue to hold, but with that a long-term sustainable income stream that isn't reliant on selling land.
Okay, so look, just a very brief reference to the runway designation, and your council will be well across the designation and the history. You will note that we are looking at at this point the designation is due to expire. That's the runway extension in 2026. And we're currently having a review of the designation and whether or not there's an opportunity to seek an extension to the lapse period through this council, working very closely with Steph, and she's doing some great work for us as well to help consider the options around this. I guess the point I really want to make is that the ideal outcome for everyone is that we are able to hold on to the designation, but we of course have got to be able to give effect to the conditions around the designation. So that work will happen during the course of this year, and I would imagine similar timeframe we'll be talking in more detail with the shareholders at the end of this year once we've already committed to and we have already met with the two landowners to the south of the airport that have got the designation on their land, which are the approach lighting to the south. So we've had initial meetings with those. So we are advancing a number of these initiatives to get us into a position of is there a significant enough change in the environment that warrants the designation lapse period being extended, with the intention. We've met with Waipa, with our RMA lawyer and our planners to understand what would be required. So I think we're making good progress, but the designation doesn't lapse until the end of 2026. So we have a reasonable amount of time to work this through during 2025. I'm sure it's going to happen. If I press the right button, it will happen.
On screen, you'll see a render of Precinct North, which doesn't quite look like that yet, but we see this is about 15 to 20 years worth of development. If you were to look at a business park in the Waikato and the kind of businesses and manufacturers and logistics firms that we have in the region, that's kind of the size of the buildings they occupy and probably how it'll play out in the future. So we, bottom left, just worth noting, we've reserved the capability for a freight hub there. So that is around 9 hectares of land. By comparison, Auckland International Airport does not yet have a dedicated freight hub. And Christchurch Airport has a small one about similar size to the land we're reserving. So preserving that optionality, obviously acknowledging Southern Links Road to the north and the fact the airport's already bordered by 2 state highways. So really see that focal point of connecting different modes of transport to Northern Precinct, Precinct North. The first developments are towards the top right, sort of probably the land closest to the P and the Precinct North heading. So developing in that corner first off Rains Road, for those of you familiar with it. And just through the next slide, you'll see the 2 properties at the top highlighted in green. Those are the ecological compensation sites. So as part of the plan change process, which I know some of you are already familiar with, it was agreed we would buy some off-site land and plant that out as habitat. And you'll see there that's connecting, creating an ecological corridor from the river around the airport almost in time. So work started to plant out the larger of those 2 sites already. At the same time, we've now got earthworks happening on Precinct North to support our first 10 hectares of development and our first design build, which we'll see titles issued and the tenant in place just over 12 months' time. So about May to June next year, we expect them to be in place.
Okay, Jetstar. So I've got 4 or 5 slides here, but we'll breeze through them quite quickly. It's just to give you a feel of the activity underway. But just to recap for you, in respect of what the services should do for the region, so the economic benefit, the job creation, and I have to say that in essence, everything is on track. So the terminal will be complete in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. So we're now already into painting and carpeting and installation of equipment. So that's coming along on time, or ahead of time almost. And along with that comes quite a significant raft of work around our international security designation and the requirements around our manuals, our expositions, to operate as per the requirements of civil aviation, aviation security, immigration, customs, MPI, police, health, and on we go. So that's all coming together very, very well. It just gives you an indication of the partnership approach that that's being undertaken. So really, as you can see there, that the key is filling seats both ways. It's a much more balanced. The advanced purchasing is much more balanced between Sydney and Hamilton, inbound and outbound. It's much stronger outbound to the Gold Coast, but that's not a surprise. That's what was anticipated. But you can see really that ourselves, we're working very, very closely with Gold Coast Airport, Sydney Airport. We had a couple of our team over there a week or so ago at Sydney Airport. We've had Gold Coast Airport teams here regularly over the past couple of months. We're working with, of course, our RTO. We're working with the Destination Queensland, Destination New South Wales, Tourism New Zealand. And then we span out, as Nicola would have explained, around the Explore Central North Island, RTOs, etc. So look, it's a full gambit to get these beasts operating, but it's been well coordinated, well supported. We could do with more effort out of the Sydney market, and that's really been more about the timing of their availability of funding, because of course this was only finalised sort of late last year. So, but we're working in that space with those organisations that represent the Sydney inbound outbound market. Just really, there are 3 key focus areas that, if you like, that the airport company, we're interested in both the outbound and the inbound. We just want to put people on seats both ways. Obviously, the RTO is focused on the inbound market, but you can see there that we're focused on those key 3 areas to drive the activity into the airport. Here's just some examples of some of the tactical sales support, particularly that's been undertaken by Jetstar. They're then repurposed by our team into our own social media channels and local sales and marketing efforts. And you may have heard even some radio advertising just in the last couple of weeks, advertising the Gold Coast out of Hamilton. Here's an example of some of the partner activity happening on the Gold Coast to sort of promote. And Gold Coast are very active. They've got very good funding, very good. You might be well aware that the Queensland State Government has a couple of $100 million to support airline expansion, route expansion into Queensland. So it's been helpful to again get the messaging out there. Here's just an option on Sydney, and that screen you can see is, in fact, that's what it will be. So it's a massive screen that we've got access to that will, and it'll have a range of photos, images on it. That's just one, obviously, of Hobbiton, along with a number of other billboard initiatives. Fortunately, we use a company called Bishop Advertising. They also support Gold Coast Airport and Sydney as well. So we've got multi-access to each other's billboards to also promote. And then look, we have the first flights arriving in Monday the 16th of June. That's a flight in from Sydney. That will be our key celebration, if you like, of the new routes. At this stage, we're hoping that we will have Minister Upston will be opening the route, and all going well, Minister Upston, myself and the JQCE will be coming in on board on that first service. We'll have a strong media contingent on that flight and also on the outgoing flight to the Gold Coast on Wednesday. And all of our local shareholders, VIPs, are invited to a launch event at the airport on that Monday, the 16th. So Mayor Susan will have received an invitation to that, along with Steph and anyone else from the council that wishes to attend. So, and then of course we go out on the Wednesday, we will go out on that flight. There is a major function at the Gold Coast Airport on that Wednesday night to also celebrate the arrival of the first flight from Hamilton into Queensland. So a lot of activity around this, and we hope to, obviously it fits very nicely into the government's tourism agenda, growth agenda, and obviously as Minister Upston is called her one of our local MPs, it's great that we've been able to do that. We've invited a number of the cabinet. Obviously it's a Monday, it's a cabinet meeting, so that's going to restrict attendance, but we are trying to elevate that, and the Prime Minister has been invited, but again, unlikely to attend due to a cabinet meeting. And the previous week, unfortunately, is here in the Waikato with field days. So there's a recess, so that limits flexibility. But we'll make a song and dance. Very, very quickly, our focus over the next 12 months is very much on bedding down those two routes, but we are keeping conversations open around other opportunities. We have also built the new international terminal that can serve domestic jet activity as well, because you have to be able to be clear aviation security. So we are also looking to see how we can advance an opportunity to operate a domestic jet service. We will now have the infrastructure to be able to make that option far more attractive. And then just finally, I mentioned earlier on, but really outside of the aviation work you've heard us talk about, the big part of this year is completing these design builds, getting Precinct North underway, and then doing this work on revising our 10-year strategy. It's proved very, very beneficial to the company for the last 7 years, but we now want to get ahead of the game and consider the best strategy for the group over the next 10-year period. That's it, Chair.
Brilliant. Exciting times. Probably got time for a couple of questions, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Hey, one through the chair, sorry. Question just around the private jets you mentioned, because I've heard a little bit of rumour around Cambridge from some of the people that delve in that world, which I don't. But they reckon that it's going to be big. There's going to be a lot coming down. Is it? Just give us some feedback on that. If you...
Yeah, look, we already, is it going to be big? It's difficult to say that it will be. What I would say is that we have already got two high net worth families that have acquired land and that are intending to build. We will build quite a significant several $1 million of taxiway network to open their land up next year, and they will build. And we're currently talking to another high net worth family about a further piece of land for their hangarage. Look, there is some challenge around Auckland and the need however, we're still uncertain, and that's principally because the general aviation activity at Auckland Airport may be in the way of realignment of the major taxiway that in 2030 becomes the main runway for a period of time while they do major upgrade work on the main runway. So yes, I think there's an opportunity. And we're as engaged in those conversations with Auckland Airport as well.
Yeah, thank
Roger,
you.
then Philip, then we'll call it a day.
Sorry? Me first. Oh, lovely. Good. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, really, really well done on the investment that you're making in the international. And it's really good to hear that you're also looking at other opportunities. Because I recall going back to when we had the last iteration of the International, there were quite strong rumours about other flights coming from other countries. And when you look at the advantage or the plus that you've got with your airport as against the location of Auckland Airport and trying to get out and make those road connections anywhere, I mean, you've got it in heaps, haven't you? Because you'll have not only the Southern Links, but also the Waikato Expressway creating connection to the rest of New Zealand. So the advantages that you've got. So when you say other opportunities, any particular focus that you're, maybe we shouldn't ask that because we are public. So
And look, what I would say is that obviously any commercial conversations I wouldn't repeat, but I think to temper expectations, particularly of our shareholders, what I would say is that our focus and priority this year is to bed in the two routes that Jetstar have now said that they will fly. I think that gives us a credibility to start to have further conversations, but those conversations will just evolve over time. As you know, they're complex between the airport companies. Have got to determine if there is a business case between different routes, whether it be Melbourne or wherever it might be. That takes time. And then, of course, the airlines have got to decide that they're interested in that route versus other alternatives they have. But I think the biggest thing we can do is make sure these routes are successful, and then we can build from here. So.
Great, thanks. And welcome. Great to see you both. We're going to have another great presentation shortly, but we've had three really good presentations this afternoon, sort of tying in with each other with Sanctuary Mountain yourselves and Waikato Tourism. And Waikato Tourism are doing a lot of promotion over in Australia and things like that. You had an example of an electronic signboard. They had one as well. What Sanctuary Mountain would love, I mean, Hobbiton are probably paying for some of that, you know, that's why they're getting a lot of airtime. What can you do to help them, further help them at arrivals with promoting Sanctuary Mountain? Anything on the electronic signboards that you've got, your example you had on your screen? So.
Yeah, look, and this came up yesterday actually at a tourism forum, and I've put the Sanctuary Mountain in touch with our team. So there is an opportunity because they are in effect a not-for-profit organisation. So we have got some constraints around terminal advertising, as do all airports, because you hand over your advertising to a third party, as we do, which is Bishop Advertising. So there's some complexity there, but there is an opportunity because of the status of Maungatautari to look at ways. So yes, we will be. It's a hero product, and it's a product that you don't have on the eastern seaboard of Australia. So we will make sure it features.
And as you probably know, I mean, they're working tirelessly to keep it afloat, and they're really thinking outside the square, and any support from any of us would be really appreciated by them particularly. So, yeah.
No, I understand that, and it was obviously great to see some additional funding coming out of the government recently as well. So I think there's a recognition. Certainly, I think we're fortunate that we have Minister Upston and Minister Potaka in our region that are supportive of that kind of investment. So look, we'll do what we can do, but we have to just navigate the commercial intricacies, I guess.
All right. Thank you, Mark and Scott. Let's draw it to a close there. It's always great to hear from you. Look forward to the next time. And jumping on a jet too to somewhere out of Hamilton for the first time in a while.
Monty, can I just add to that the Waikato Regional Airport came and presented at the Parawira Pokai recently, and I understand it was the first time that had done so, and the guys were warmly received, and a tribute to Ben, because it's terrifying to stand up on a marae speak on the pie in front of 800 people. And he got up, a piece of cake, eh? Got up, spoken to Reo, sung his own waiata, and the whole team were there from the from the Waikato Regional Airport. So ngā mihi, Mark, well done to you and your team.
It was, I know you wouldn't start some intimidating, but the team were somewhat worked up about it. And I
It's
think
intimidating.
Having them on between you as well
Yeah.
has an added
Yeah.
tension.
I took the limelight off you because I broke protocol that day, so it's okay.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Calvin French from CoLab. Welcome, Calvin. I think we might have your presentation ready too.
Afternoon, everyone. I must say at the outset that it's quite refreshing to be presenting on something other than waters.
Surely not, Kelvin.
That's not to say that waters isn't exciting, but it's quite novel. As you well know, there's a lot going on in that space, and it's all good. Right. So look, I thought I don't get the opportunity to come and talk to you too often. So I thought I'd just quickly recap, and many of you have been around for a bit, have seen this before, but just at a high level to talk about CoLab and what we do and what we do for Waipa in particular. So we're fundamentally about collaboration, and our vision is to ensure that through CoLab, we help councils collaborate in a way that maximises community wellbeing and value, and our purpose therefore is to enable councils to benefit from shared opportunities. And we do that in three different ways. The first is that we act as an ideas laboratory. So we have a small team that works with council staff to investigate and develop opportunities to work together. And importantly, over the last 12, 24 months, we have had an increased focus on working with smaller coalitions of the willing or enthusiastic councils, rather than trying to get the vast majority of councils into bed on a particular opportunity before we progress it. The second way we achieve our vision is obviously delivering shared services to councils, and I'll talk about that shortly. And then the third and final is we enter into joint procurement arrangements as the lead contractor for a variety of things that benefit councils. So the most notable of those are the collective insurance arrangements that the councils have in place through CoLab, and acknowledge Ken for his leadership with the work that is undertaken there, including going over to London, presenting to underwriters, which we know is invaluable in terms of the benefit that accrues to councils as a result. And then the second significant joint procurement arrangement is the professional services panel, which, as you will appreciate, has a massive amount of work go through it. And I want to acknowledge Adele Bird from Waipa District Council, who is one of 4 or 5 council procurement managers, but quite honestly, the amount of work she puts into joint procurement generally, but the professional services panel in particular, I just can't understate it. And it's, it's incredible work on her part. In terms of what we do for Waipa, you're involved in 8 of the 9 services that we provide. The only one that you aren't currently involved with is CoLab Learning. I'll talk a bit more about that shortly. But it's suffice to say it's significant. I've mentioned a couple of staff that are heavily involved with us. There's the gambit of services that we provide to Waipa is quite broad. And of course, you benefit from other forms of collaboration that we help facilitate. So we have a number of council working parties, the joint procurements that I mentioned, and similarly the opportunities to investigate new ideas. I just wanted to switch then quickly to the half-yearly report, and I only have one slide on that. I just wanted to highlight three things, I guess. The first is obviously Waikato Water done well, and for the comment that I said at the outset, I don't want to talk about that too long, but happy to take any questions on it. CoLab was heavily involved in supporting the project up to and including the council signing the heads of agreement in December. It's fair to say that we've had additional resource come in as part of that project on this side of Christmas, and so our involvement has lessened. But there's a great team that's involved in that now, so it's freed us up to work on other opportunities in any event. So, but look, as you know, there's a massive amount of work going on there, and great leadership from, unsurprisingly, from the council CEs. With Waikato Water done well, it's awesome to be a part of it. The second is we have been looking at working with councils to set up a building consent processing hub. So we've got 3 councils currently interested in that. We are road testing interest with a couple of others, but it will happen, and we're hoping to have that up and running, I think by the 1st of May this year. Which is great, actually, and there's not a huge amount of change at the outset. It's largely about making sure that we get the most efficient use of contractor spend or contractor capacity. But that's quite exciting that we've got that underway. And then the professional services panel, I have already mentioned, that went live the 1st of December, and we've got 4 councils at the moment, including Waipa, signed up to that, but we'll have others come on board in the next few months. If I turn to the statement of intent, I guess 3 points that I really want to highlight from that. The first is that, and this was signalled in last year's statement of intent, we provide procurement support to councils in a number of ways, including a shared resource to some of the smaller councils, but we also have a procurement manager that supports some cross-council procurement. We changed the funding model on that last year, and in an effort to try and improve the engagement of that resource that we were struggling with a little bit. We are currently going through a review, as we said that we would, of whether that change in funding approach has proved to be successful or not. As I say, it's still in process, but we will incorporate what the outcome of that review is in our final statement of intent. The second thing to note is CoLab Water Services. So this is our single largest business unit within CoLab. It makes up about half of the team in terms of numbers and about 40% of revenue. We have assumed that it stays within CoLab through the forecast period. It's fair to say that with the water reform, there's a question mark around that, and I've reached out to Lance to just have a chat to him about what that looks like going forward. We certainly think it makes sense for it to stay with CoLab, but it will be obviously providing the services to a consolidated customer base with a number of the existing individual councils coming together as part of Waikato Water done well. And indeed the Hamilton City Waikato District CCO. And then the final point to note there is CoLab Learning. Unfortunately, after much gnashing of teeth and trying our best, we have ultimately reached a point where the councils involved in that have agreed to disestablish CoLab Learning. Basically, we couldn't get councils to engage in and lift the activity levels in terms of learning events that we had hoped for, and so it's just become non-viable. It was due to be reviewed at this point, and we've, as I say, made the call to disestablish it. Look, a key part of the draft SOI is actually around the financial story, and part of that is because of the good deal that you've got in years gone by, right? So over the last 3 to 4 years, we've actually been in a position where we've been able to utilise cash that we've had available to us that's built up over a period of time to reduce council member charges. And as noted there on the screen, in the current financial year, we were able to reduce council member charges from 76 to for YPAR from 76k to 18k as a result of that. But we noted at the time that it is a one-off deduction, and we have to get back to a break-even point. And essentially, as you well know, we're not profit-making, right? So the trick for me and my team is to ensure that we keep our costs as manageable as possible and cost increases as low as possible, and I'll come to that shortly. But obviously, because we're break even, the member charges do tend to bounce around a bit, and there's hopefully it's been budgeted for, or most of it, but there is a return to normal, if you like, in the coming year with respect to company council member charges. So what that looks like for YPAR is a 38% increase. That seems a big number, and it is in percentage terms, obviously. But a couple of things to note, in dollar terms, it's actually something less than $30,000. And as I just noted earlier, the main thing for me and the team is ensuring that we keep that increase in expenditure under control, and we're sitting at 2.6% increase relative to the prior year. The last couple of points there are really around things that go into how we allocate funds as between the councils, because the OPEX has a bearing on that. And so in YPAR's case, OPEX has gone up greater for YPAR relative to the other councils. So that's meant that a greater portion, if you like, of the overall member charge is being borne by YPAR compared to prior years. And then obviously if we've member charges as our residual to get us to a balancing budget, if you like, it's susceptible to movements in profitability of the other business units like CoLab Waters, and also to the extent that we derive less revenue, for example, from other sources such as interest, which makes sense because we've been winding our cash reserves down. So there's a few things at play there from a member's charges point of view. It's probably therefore timely to remind you of the value of collaboration. So you may recognise this. This is at a regional level, what we measure or are able to measure in terms of the value of the councils collaborating together. And you can see some fairly big numbers up there, most notably the procurement and contract savings and also efficiency gains. To the extent that it relates to YPAR, and this is in the year to FY24, I should say. We haven't got numbers for the current financial year, but YPAR in FY24 saved about 1.5 million from joint procurement arrangements and received about 175k worth of efficiency gains. So I think it's always important to consider the value that Waipa is receiving in the context of those discussions around member charges that I had talked about earlier. And then I have said this in the past and I will continue to say it. Ultimately, my aim is to get CoLab to a user pays model. It's simply not at that at the moment. So my goal is member charges of 0. We will, in the interim, continue to look to ways in which we can reduce member charges, and I've noted a few of them on the screen there, including in line with the strategy that's outlined in the statement of intent, looking at scaling up services and new revenue opportunities, which could include going beyond the shareholding councils for users of some of our services. And in fact, that's our intent, provided it doesn't compromise what we deliver to the shareholders themselves. I do believe that's it. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, go for it, Claire.
Yeah, thanks, Kelvin. Yeah, it's always good to see you here, and I really enjoyed seeing your presentation because those figures, the ones that benefit Waipa, doesn't really come through in what we get. And
Yep.
it'd be quite good to have that, actually. I think it's a
Oh.
good case. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, the
continue to-
SOI is a whole of company across
Yeah.
all the shareholders documents. So
Yeah.
we're looking for ways that we can communicate what the individual shareholders, the value that they receive. So
Yeah, a couple of questions. Like, do you feel that the support you get from Waipa is really good, or are we not maximising everything that we could be utilising through you?
to be honest, I think there's always more opportunity to do more. And in fact, Peter and I at the moment are going around and talking with each of the individual CEs.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we are asking them, our meeting with Steph is on Monday. And one of the things that we're asking them is, what does success look like for them with respect to CoLab, right? It's quite interesting. When I came on board 5-6 years ago, the CEs around the table are completely different now. Not one of them is the same. And so it's entirely appropriate that we road test, right? This is the direction that we had been going in. Is that fit for purpose for the new breed, right? The new cohort. So look, Peter and I are about halfway through those great discussions, real positivity about what CoLab's trying to achieve, and in particular, the opportunity to do more together on the back of the water reform, actually, and what it means for the rest of council, right? And particularly some of the smaller councils, resilience is an issue for them when you take 30% of their business away. So lots of positivity from those discussions.
Oh, that sounds really fantastic. I see that you've got that future lens on, yeah, which is really great. So the other question I was going to ask actually was around AI. And are you sort of exploring ways that you can, I suppose, have an offering to encourage, your member councils to be maybe utilising AI in a way that's a larger scale, through your services?
Funnily, you should say that. There's green shoots going off up here at the moment in terms of how we do that. If I was to be brutally honest with you, I mean, CoLab's a small team, right? And one of the shortcomings in our capability is IT savviness. We don't have an in-house CIO or anything like that, right? So the question for me, and I've been thinking about it exactly in the context of AI, because there must be so much opportunity. You certainly don't want 12 councils investigating the same thing over and over again. So we're thinking exactly that. How do we bring in house some sort of capability or access capability that can just roll process improvement and AI savviness off the table?
Yeah, which would then be available to all your members.
Absolutely,
Yeah, cool.
absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
That sounds exciting. Thank you.
Thanks. We're just going to wrap up with a comment from Chief Executive Steph.
Thanks, Monty. Thanks, Kelvin, for the presentation, and I'm looking forward to the conversation on Monday. Just for elected members' awareness, I will bring a paper, but for the last 8 years, I think, is it 8? Gavin Irons, how many years?
But do I need to
Gavin
read?
Irons represented both
Do I need to
Waikato
read it?
District and Waipa on the
Okay.
board of COLAD. So it's time that we picked up the baton, and so I'll be
what's that
now
paper?
representing Waikato District Council, so Craig Hobbs and I on the board of CoLab as the Western Council's collaboration. So looking forward to joining that, bring that more formally to you in time to come. I'm not quite sure of the process internally, but just wanted to let you know. So looking forward to working with Kelvin and Peter and what we can do. It's a bright, exciting future.
Thanks, Kelvin. Good to see you. Till next time. Keep saving us money. That was great.
Yeah, great saving. Good opportunities. Thank you, Kelvin.
Okay, next up, we've got Andrew from LGFA, and I think it might take us a minute or two to get him. So have we got time for we're adjourned for a couple of minutes for a quick toilet break, and we'll call you back when we get him. Oh, okay. Because you're tired or because I'm... Okay, everyone, we're back live. We aren't going to hear from Andrew from LGFA at this stage. I believe he's going to come to our next, he'll appear at our next meeting. But in the meantime, we will turn our attention to the letters that respond to the SOIs. And this is Ken, I believe. Hand over to you, Ken.
Yep, no, that's fine. Thank you, Chair. And sorry, yep. Sorry, I've just gone into some sort of power save mode. Just be with me for a moment. Right. Oh, yes, there was some emails going in the background. I certainly wasn't playing computer games. Right. Okay, I'm there now. So, so look, the first letter is tab 14.8 on page 272. So we'll just do this in the order we've heard from them. Okay, so this is the draft letter to Waikato Regional Airport Limited. You've heard from Mark and you've heard from Scott this afternoon. And look, there's essentially the letter is just acknowledging the airport, acknowledging its economic importance to the region. So we acknowledge that. We compliment the board. I mean, this has been a tough economic times, and they have done incredibly well. They've obviously resecured Trans-Tasman Air Services, so that is a major win. And of course, they could certainly talk to that today. And it really is a major win. Really the only thing that we are commenting on, and I guess this is kind of a long-standing one that we tend to put in this letter every year, is just a call for them to not forget about dividends. And I know at least one of the other shareholders pushes this really hard. In fact, potentially pushes this even harder than what we do. But look, I guess for many years. Many years we were we basically forfeited dividends, so there were no dividends in the mix for a long time, which enabled the airport to build up capital. In fact, we had to answer some calls for additional capital, and certainly for uncalled capital to be provided for. So I guess around this table over the last few years, there's been quite a bit of discussion about, hey, it is now time that some dividends are returned to the councils. And the shareholding councils, the 5 shareholding councils, and so that has happened. The most recent dividend was November 23, so a couple of years ago, where they paid a dividend of 500,000 across their 5 shareholders. Our share was 78,000. So look, there was a significant amount of income coming back into the Waipa ratepayers. We really felt that was worthwhile and that was justifiable to our ratepayers, given the long-term support that this council has given to the airport. I guess when I reflect on on the financial situation of council currently, and we are right up against it in terms of deep headroom, etc. The airport, not so much so, although they did during their presentation note that their debt is going to start tracking up. Obviously with the land development, etc., that they're doing and what they're investing back into infrastructure in the airport as well. But look, you could almost say that at the moment they do probably have a bit more capacity at the moment than we do, and maybe that's a justification for the dividend. The only other thing I would mention is probably about a year or a year and a half ago, we rocked up, or a number of the councillors and some of the staff rocked up to a Cambridge Chamber of Commerce event, and I know that there was quite a bit of questioning at that in terms of are we getting dividends from from some of these companies that we have invested into. So there is perhaps that's just an example, but there is perhaps a bit of interest and expectation from our ratepayers that dividends would be paid from an organisation such as the airport that is earning very good returns, not only from its its core business, but taking advantage of the land assets that it's got, and is either selling at profit or renting out for long time sustainable income. So. Yeah, so look, that was really the only comment that we've got. The comment really comes in two parts as well. So first of all, it is, hey, think about paying a significant level of dividend, and then it was also about perhaps a little bit about giving some certainty over that. So rather than sort of waiting to October, November, could they at the statement of intent stage that's got to be adopted by June actually give an indication of what the what dividend might be paid this year. Subject, I suppose, to what plays out in the year end. Okay, but that's that is the letter to Waikato Regional Airport Chair. So very happy for any questions or comments.
Look, I accept your argument. Does anyone have a contrary view or any problem with anything in that letter?
No problem at all. I just move it. I think it's a standard letter, I think.
Yep, we'll do the recommendations all at one at the end, okay?
Collectively, no problem.
So, because that's the way it's framed. So just keep going, Ken. I get a sense everyone's getting pretty tired around the table. So be brief, and if people have got problems, they can raise them.
Absolutely fine. Okay, so page 276, and it is a much shorter letter to CoLab. And look, just indicating that we're pleased to be able to comment, congratulating them on a couple of pieces of key work, and in fact, two of those Calvin referred to. Waikato Water's done well. They have done sterling work in terms of supporting that project, and the professional services panel renewal, which again he mentioned. So just congratulating them on that, and then just a very general comment that we are supportive of what they're suggesting in their statement of intent.
Okay, move on, Ken.
Okay, and then the last one is LGFA. Obviously, we didn't hear from the LGFA. They have said that they're happy to come to a future meeting, which is good. And look, again, just recognising the value that they've given to us. Obviously, thanking them for the bespoke covenant arrangement, which we have recently secured from them. I think that is important to acknowledge that and their innovative work in that regard. And again, just it is essentially a general letter of support.
Okay, brilliant. In that case, let's return to the recommendations on pages 147 and 148.
Actually, sorry, Chair, there is one other. So page 280, and this one is a little bit different. So this is Civic Financial Services. So look, their years are out of alignment, their financial years. So their year is 1 January to December. And they, unlike the other three, do not actually have the legislative requirement to give us a draft, have us comment and then finalise. They can actually just finalised straight away. So look, this is just very much an acknowledgement letter that we usually send every year. And look, we are thanking them, I guess, on behalf of our staff for their focus on trying to keep the fees and their superannuation schemes as low as possible for the benefit of their members.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Right, sorry, I missed that. Okay, returning to the recommendation on 147 and 148. I'm happy to move from the chair. Can someone second that? Lou? Everyone in favour of these four letters and the full recommendation there, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Yep. And look, thanks for bearing with me. It's kind of hard running the graveyard shift. It's been a long day and everyone gets pretty tired by the end. So, yeah, like I said, feedback's welcome. Dale Marie, could you finish this off, please?
Tēnā tātou te hui. Well done, everybody. Well done, Monty. Cheering us at the end there. Kua mutu o mātou mahi, mō tēnei wā, manaaki tia mai, mātou katoa, o mātou hua, o mātou whānau, ai o ki te aorangi, huie, tai ki. Tēnā tātou.
Sorry, Andrew, you had asked.